Well, it's July 7th, and I was out here doing some grafting. It started to rain, chased me inside. I came back out when it stopped, and I've been thinking, and gosh, I don't know. I cut these trees down, a lot of trees last year, you will remember in some of my videos. I cut them back quite a bit. This hardy Chicago, which there's also Mission growing in there, so it's two trees side by side. It's growing back at such a phenomenal rate that I'm starting to panic, because I sort of promised Debbie that I would cut back on the figs here. I removed a couple of figs last year entirely, but this one was cut back to the height of the air conditioner, and now look at it. I mean, it's just growing in leaps and bounds. There's the new growth is, it's just, look at that new growth in there. It's 4 foot. I'm not exaggerating. You can see it. It's 4 foot long already, and it's only the 7th of July. It's just beautiful growth. This tree has so much vitality. I should go over and look at it more closely, and I think I will. But look, just look at it. It's just incredible. Look at that new growth. And it's making figs. Making figs everywhere. So what did I really accomplish? I mean, the tree was higher than the rain gutters, and I cut it back, but before long it will be up there again. I guess everybody should have my problem. The figs grow, they're just growing vigorously. I topically added some calcium, some crushed shells, and some lime, and some iron, because all these things really are conducive to healthy fig trees, which I've explained in my previous videos. I can't hold these trees back. I just can't hold them back anymore. So anyway, many growers have their own preferences when it comes to such things. Epsom salt, I always add Epsom salt. Iron, unfortunately, I just added it, so it takes time for it to start to show, and it brings a real pretty green, and it brings in nutrients. Iron is an essential ingredient in the universe. It's essential to we humans as well. But I like volcanic substances. There's minerals that can be purchased, volcanic minerals, and I put a topical covering around the root bases of my trees, not every single year, but often, because I believe in it. The origins of the fig, most likely around the Mediterranean area of the world, where it was highly volcanic, and there was a lot of volcanic minerals and such in the ground. Even today, that's where they like to grow, around Naples and at the foot of Mount Vesuvius, where Pompeii is. It's famous. Figs are famous for that sort of thing. So certainly hasn't hurt me. But that's another subject. And I like low nitrogen fertilizers, generally organic. This year I got into a pinch and I couldn't use it, because I had to use what was on hand, mostly what was here for different bushes and shrubs. So I used a little of that earlier, after the fruit set, of course, but not much. But what I'm saying is, I'm beginning to be overtaken again. Here, I was explaining before about my grafting, and some of the trees were damaged by the spray because I had to power wash the deck with bleach, or soaps with bleach in it, something over the counter. It was really harsh, and it hurt my plants a little bit. See? So anyway, that's all disappearing now because I'm getting so much growth And I've been cutting the growth back, and there's a reason, because talk about grafting a little bit. When I graft, when I'm finished, I try to make sure there's not too much of the original rootstock growing where I have my grafts. Here's one I'm just completing now, and under there is the rubber band. Here's one, where is it? Here's one in progress, if you want to look at it. And this is a sign of kind of like a whip graft. I like this probably the most in certain instances, where you cut a wedge, if you can see that, you cut a wedge into the branch, the host branch, and you take your scion and you wedge it, you cut it sharply. Can you see that? I could pull it out, but I don't want to hurt the cambium layer, which I have a line pretty good on both sides on this one. So I'm going to tie it. I'm going to put a rubber band around this way I do it. I'd show you if I just can't do it. I can't do it. But maybe I'll call Debbie out to show you how I tie it. But here you can see the rubber band under the tape, and that holds it nice and tight. And the tape will conserve the moisture in the scion, and then hopefully the scion will sprout. And the buds, I leave a couple buds. Sometimes I leave more, sometimes one. Depends on the availability of material. Right now I don't have very much. I don't, because of the dieback that I had in New Jersey. Tremendous dieback. But I'm cutting some away from this and that, and I've got some Smith in here. This tree over here I'm dedicating to Smith. I put the paper towels here because I just, even though there's tinfoil under there, I'm just worried about the intense heat, because we've passed the solstice and the heat is intense, and the angle of the sun is so high and direct. I worry about that. But I probably don't need the paper towels. Just a little while ago I had all different kinds of leaves that were now growing over my grafts. These are some that were made a few weeks ago, and a lot I've made recently. If you look in here, I'm making all kinds of them all over the place. I like where there's shoots coming up, because there's so much energy in those shoots, and you cut off everything above it, and so all the energy goes into the scion, and you get better results. I like that very, very much. I'm seeing some scale here, and I sprayed it with alcohol. Scale's a problem. There's little armored pests, and they seem to be like little tanks that attach themselves and burrow in to the bark and start to suck the sap. They start to suck all the energy out of the tree, and they're protected in a way that pesticides and even alcohol, anything, can't really penetrate very well. And I don't like to resort to anything that's not organic, but in this case I've sprayed with alcohol, and it tends to dehydrate them over time, especially when the eggs hatch and they start to move around to find a place to attach themselves. Once they do, they attach themselves for life. But to get rid of the adults that keep making eggs, it's hard. And so I might have to just go over the counter and buy something. I've actually researched it last night, and I'm going to go buy something. And I think I'm going to spray it when I come back, because I just can't stand scale. And even though these trees are very, very vigorous, look at the new growth. I mean, these are all new shoots. Look at that, right from the ground. These are new shoots, and these were even higher that I've already done. But even though everything is vigorous and growing quite nicely, here I have my Smith grafts, more Smith grafts. I had to do one Smith graft over here. I put one here because it fit perfectly with what I have. And this is another. This is the second one. I don't like to mix them. I would like to keep this all Ronde Bordeaux and that all Smith. But it is what it is, and I have limited resources and time. I've been so occupied and preoccupied, I haven't had enough time to dedicate just here and there, but I'm getting a lot of grafts done. If you look in here, you can see that there's a lot that have been done in different places. And I guess it's sort of like at this point, it's a probability strategy. And what I mean is, the more grafts I make, because it's past the solstice and conditions aren't the best, I'm using green wood, and there's just a lot of things that I mentioned it before, but I've got a lot of odds stacked against me. So the law of probability is, I'm trying to manipulate that to my advantage, meaning that the more grafts I make, the higher the probability that some of them will succeed. Some of them will survive. What is this thing here? Why do I always do that and always leave it on partial zoom? I don't know. So the more the merrier, and I've been doing, and I still have more to do, and I just got rained out. But this one now, I'm going to put some aluminum foil over to keep the harsh sun. There were more leaves here, but I've been cutting back these shoots to actually graft them. A lot of them I've been cutting back. So, and here too. And when you do that, well, you have less shade. The shade is nice when you're trying to graft this time of year. But that's why I'm using the tin foil. And here, I guess I'm going overboard with the paper towels. I think I'll be okay. I'll probably remove them. So I need to finish putting tin foil on this. I'm marking these, the ones I just did recently, I'm marking with a little string here, orange string, so that I know that I don't try to open these up once I close them over until later. Some of them were done several weeks ago. I've done 3 different times. So I need to know what is what, and which ones are Smith and which ones are Ronde Bordeaux and which ones were done earlier and in between and now, so that I know when to open them up. And I wait 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You could take a peek in 3 weeks. There's no rush to it. The rubber bands I used, they lose their power after a while. They won't girdle. In my experience, they won't girdle the scion, the actual graft. But by the time these start to bud out, once I've seen it makes a really good connection, and it attaches properly, I'll cut off the rubber band and the tape, because you want the buds, once they start to emerge, you want them to be able to have some exposure to the sun, because if you wait too long and they develop underneath of the tinfoil, and then you pop the tinfoil off, the first time they get hit with the sun, they're going to suffer a sunburn. They're going to suffer significantly. I don't want that to happen. So it's a balancing act, isn't everything in the world, sort of. So I'm trying to eliminate as many of the rootstock branches I can. Okay, this comes all the way from down there, but because if you leave one like this, just this one, and I'm going to get that next. Here's another one. I did this one, and here's another one that needs to be done. I need to do 2 more, because I don't want to leave anything original on this part of the tree. I don't want to leave any original rootstock branches, because nature will take its course, and it will take the easiest way. Okay, that's how nature works, and it will start to develop these branches. And I mean develop them quickly. And all the energy will begin to flow into them. And if that happens, then there's a less likelihood that the grafts will take it all. So that's not good news. I was using this for shade, but I think I'm going to pop it off. I don't know. So, yeah. You have to be cognizant of these principles. And you have to do, honestly, you have to do everything you possibly can to give the advantage to your grafts, so that all of the energy will flow into them and not flow into these branches that you've left ungrafted. So now I've got to find more scion, I've got to find more material, which I'm running out. so that I can finish this. And if I can't finish it and this, then I've got to cut them off. And I don't want to do that either, because the more, again, the law of diminishing returns, however you want to phrase it, I've got to get as many grafts in as I possibly can so that my success rate is acceptable. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for success here. We shall see. I hope that it all turns out. Meanwhile, I'll be getting more material as it grows, and I'll be bringing more material down, and I'm going to be doing these. I'll be cutting these off. I'll be cutting these shoots off, and I'll be also doing, like I did here, I'll be making grafts, and I'll succeed. Even if I fail miserably in terms of percentages, still, notwithstanding, I will have some successes, and that's all I need. If I have a few successes, I'll have enough. Maybe I'll succeed with many of these. I took my time. It's easy to graft. Really, it's not hard, but it's very hard to graft properly. It really takes time. You've got to line up the cambium layer, the layers. You got to make sure they're in perfect alignment. You can't mess around. You just can't make a mistake. And this one is on both sides. Can I show you? See, look at there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I try my best. And when I tie it, I'll be very cognizant of the fact that they have to remain in alignment with one another, because that's what success will depend on. If those layers, that cambium layers, match up. And so most of mine have, it takes time to find the proper scion, the right size, and match it up and cut here and cut there. And it's not as easy as you might think. Actually, the process is not difficult. But again, doing it well and doing it and paying attention to detail, that is difficult. And your success ratio depends on that. So I hope that this is the method I'm using today. I should pull that out. Let me see. Is there another one? Here's another one. Look, this is what it looks like. Look, this. Okay. You just sharpen both sides. You take it down. See that? And I keep dipping them in the water too. I keep hydrating my graft material because I don't want it to dry out. See, that's nice and healthy. Look at that, it's beautiful. And there's your cambium layer. I wish I could have someone hold this camera, but you can see that little light green layer right below the bark. That's the layers that you have to match up with the host, the receiving branch. You have to match them so that the juices and the energy will continue to flow into the scion. So that's what I did here, and that's what I'll do with this. Wedge it in there, and then wrap it tight with a rubber band like I did here, and then put the grafting tape over it, stretch it on, sort of like a waxy material, paraffin, and then cover it with a little tin foil to keep the hot sun off of it for a while, a couple weeks, until it has a chance to take or begin to take. Meanwhile, I'll be dealing with some of these white, I believe it's called white scale, and I've already sprayed the entire tree with alcohol with a little hand sprayer, and so I'll be doing that again. And if I can get them all, it's worked for me before in the past, then I won't resort to any chemicals, over-the-counter sprays or something. But if I can't, I will. I don't like it. I like to go organic. You know that. I've said it many, many times. But there are times when you just have to concede to the moment. If you can't succeed, I'm not going to sacrifice my trees just because I stubbornly adhere to basic principles that I do value very much in terms of organics and in terms of avoiding chemical sprays and such. I usually even use a organic fertilizer all the time, but this time I didn't. I didn't have it, and I wanted to get finished. I had to leave the next day, and I got to that point where I said, well, either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So I gave him a shot of regular Miracle Grow fertilizer, but it won't harm anything. And the trees are happy. And I put very little. Okay, so one more look at this growth. Look at this growth. This is something to really note. Look at that. This is all new growth. I cut this tree back down, all the way down to the height of that air conditioner. Now look at some of these branches. This is all new growth. Look at that. All the way from there, in there, all the way up to there. Look at the new growth. It's just incredible. And I pinched these 2 or 3 weeks ago to try and stop them from growing, because I don't like lanky branches. I mean, these are not lanky though. These are fruit producing. Believe me, these will produce. Look, they're producing fruit. It's how I grow the trees. I insist, or I chop them down. I keep chopping them back. I don't like flimsy branches. I want to grow figs, and I want to eat figs. And I do everything that I possibly can to be conducive to that purpose. Wow, some of these diesel trucks are ridiculous. So, that's a lot of growth. I think Debbie will be after me to prune them back. Now, this part of the tree is actually mission, if some of you out there might recognize the leaf pattern. This is not hardy Chicago like the rest of the tree. And I've been thinking, this tree used to be, and there's no exaggeration here. There's no reason to exaggerate, believe me. Everyone in the neighborhood, people that are watching these videos, and my friends and relatives and stuff, they know it's true. This tree, this mission was 25 feet high. 25 feet high at one time. My friend and I had to get on a ladder to get up there and pick the figs. There were so many mission figs. But I cut it back because it started to just dominate the whole property, and so did others. I had Canadri over there, it was so big. I had Desert King, and I had Peter's Honey, and I had Feliciano Bianco, and then of course I cut back this tree last year, and you'll see it in the videos. This is XL, Iracondens XL, and it was way up over the ring. I cut it, and I've cut them many times. Look at that. Look how big that tree was at one time. Look at it. Look at that compared to what it is now. It was huge. And I cut it back. And the thing about the reason why is because although it could withstand the winters here, which was surprising to me, the quality of the fruit in this environment just wasn't up to par. It wasn't up to my expectations. Okay? And the reason for that is because Mission likes heat. It likes almost desert-like heat, or California-like heat. That kind of heat. And it thrives in that, and it comes into its own if those things are available to it. Excessive heat and less humidity. And when there isn't those things available to it, and when it's grown in an environment like this, I just don't like the quality of the fruit. So, it is a vigorous grower, as you can tell. So I'm starting to get ideas about grafting. And by the way, it is resistant to nematodes. At least I find it to be resistant to nematodes. This tree has been here so long. I mean, it's been here forever. Since I've been here almost. I put it here after maybe 1 or 2 years. I've been here 35 years. So the mission tree, it hasn't died. Not only hasn't it, it's thriving. Look at it. It grows like crazy. So I'm thinking about cutting it back, really cutting it back, and then taking the new shoots and grafting different varieties that I would like to have here that are very susceptible to nematodes. All right, I don't want to wear these topics out. Here's my little fig garden. I put a couple more cuttings of a different variety over there. on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Peter's honey are growing. A few didn't make it. I pulled one out yesterday. It didn't have any roots on it, and it didn't look good. I forgot, I wasn't here to water them for a while, and it was very, very, very hot. But they still survive. Some of them, I mean, more than half of them survived. And now I put in a few more. Those 4 over there, I put them in. I don't know why, because I don't really want them. But I do want these because they are highly resistant. The Peter's honey are highly resistant to nematodes because in their parentage, they are a sport. It's a sport of Cadota. It's closely related genetically to Cadota. It's not exactly Cadota, but it's very close to Cadota. And Cadota is, of all the figs I've ever grown, Peter's honey is the most resistant to nematodes. And Desert King, there's a few. Feliciano, Bianco, you can't stop this darn thing. Debbie kind of made me, well, I did it. I volunteered to cut it down. It was a nice tree. I have it home, and I cut it down so many times. But yes, last year, if you remember, like looking at the videos, I cut this tree. It was a beautiful tree, and it had figs on it. I cut it down to the ground, and I've been running it over with the lawnmower this year, but it wants to come up, and I don't know. I kind of feel sorry for it. So now I'm starting to let it grow again. It just, you can't stop it. Feliciano Bianco. It's a San Pedro, of course. So what I'm going to do with a new idea, since it is resistant to nematodes and does very well, I'm going to chop away these little shoots, and I'm going to select 3 or 4 really, really healthy shoots, and they all seem healthy to me. But I'll look them over very carefully, and then I'm going to graft onto them. I'm going to graft. So I'm going to begin grafting here. It's something that I should have done years ago, but didn't. But you know, you learn something all the time in this business. It's true. I learned so many things. Even today, I was putting these yellow strings, these orange strings, to let me know that these are recent grafts and not to open them until later in August. And the wind started blowing before the rain came, and the knots started coming undone. Look at this. And so all of a sudden, I had strings on the ground. I go, wait a minute, what's going on here? So now I've gone out and gotten some, I've gotten some glue. I hate to have to do it. Some super glue, and I'm going to tie these knots and tighten them up again. And I'm going to put a little dab of super glue, or use a different, next time I'll use a different type of string. You see, I learned that. Now I will never use that type of string again. It never rots. It's a good string. It will last a long, long time. But the wind will unravel it. And all of a sudden, it'll fall on the ground, and then you won't know why you put it. You won't know, or the cutting or the graft was the latest ones that you did, or whatever reason why you put that darn thing there. You won't know, because the string will be on the ground and not on the graft. And I learned that just, today. You always learn things. There's so many things to learn about the orchard and about the hobby. You never stop learning. It's an infinite book. It's a book that pages are added to into perpetuity, forever and ever and ever. And you will never, ever, ever finish writing or reading the book. Never. So I'm going into a phase now where I'm going to start grafting because of this nematode problem I have. And I do want to establish a few varieties here that I've enjoyed back in New Jersey. I have them in the ground, and I'm very happy with the results, but I want them here too. I want them here. So how do I get them here? Well, I'm not going to plant them in the ground anymore because they just die. Or they get to the point where they're not growing and they're as good as dead. So I'm going to begin the graft. And I will graft here because I don't get the winter dieback here like I do in New Jersey. It's a 7B. And so far, I want to add this too. So far I've had Smith here for 3 years in the ground, and Ronde Bordeaux for probably 4 years in the ground. And although they are susceptible to nematodes, they survive the winter every winter with no dieback. So I will graft them. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. If you graft like in 7A, it's a total waste of time for in-ground trees. In containers, that's a different story. But in ground, you're just wasting your time if you're going to be grafting in New Jersey in 7A. Because that cold winter, that every 3 years or 4 years, cold winter will come along, or maybe even this winter, and kill them, and kill everything right to the ground, and all of your grafts will have been a complete waste of time. So I won't do that, but here I will. Here I'll do it. And I have good reason to do it, because look at the vitality of these trees. I mean, my goodness, can you imagine if Italian 258 grafted to that? And who knows what? I mean, I might surprise you. I might actually I may take Black Madeira and graft it to Mission, because I've shown you where it survived the winter here and did not die back. And yes, I'm shocked. My last video shows it. I'm shocked over it. But I was shocked that Ronde Bordeaux survived here and that Smith survived here. And so what other varieties will survive here, especially if they're on a very, very winter hardy rootstock? And if I can get them to grow as vigorously as this Mission tree is growing, or this hardy Chicago on this other side, this hardy Chicago is growing over here, and it's growing very, very, very vigorously, as you can see. Look at it. If I can get those grafts to grow like that, it will be quite an accomplishment that I will enjoy immensely. So with that, thank you very much for visiting. I appreciate your visits. I enjoy them. Please subscribe. Please the thumbs up, all that. It lets me know, it gives me some feedback that my videos are being watched and that there's some interest in them, so that I can have the motivation to continue. And I better get into the house, because I've got some things I have to get done and some places I have to go. Good day.